Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishna Project podcast. This is episode number 155 and the first edition, the first episode of 2025. Can you believe it? We are starting 2025 with a brand new episode of the Hare Krishna Project podcast. Do not forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button so you can be kept updated about future podcasts and video productions from the Hare Krishna Project. And or if you're watching this on Facebook, which is the other location you can watch this podcast. If you haven't already, please do like or follow the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page so you can be kept updated about future podcasts and video productions from the Hare Krishna Project and all the other exciting things we do and we will continue to do through 2025. Book distribution, school visits, Hare Krishna festivals. I'm actually really excited about 2025. I feel like there's so much to do. I wish I had more time to do it all. But anyway, okay, this week's edition of the podcast, we are back to the United States. We're kicking off. I've just actually remembered a year ago, the first episode of 2024 was with an American. Actually, I've just remembered that. And this year's first edition is with an American too. These Americans certainly get about, don't they? And they've always got something to say. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome our guest this week. It's Mahatma Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Jai Jai Hari Hari Bol, obeisances of Lord Prabhupada.
Jai, all
Hari Hari Bol.
Jai, Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada indeed. Mahatma Prabhu, it's great to have you with us. You and I was just thinking earlier today, you and I have been in contact with each other for quite a long time, actually. I'd say it's at least 6 months, maybe, or 4 or 5 months. And you've become a great contact in terms of all different issues. And yeah, a friend of yours, a very close friend of yours, I had the privilege of interviewing last year as well, Anu Bhavananda Prabhu, the Prabhupada's poet. That podcast
Amazing
that was about 3 months ago, I think. Time's gone incredibly quick. But Prabhupada's poet. Okay, we're gonna have a fascinating conversation today, and we've got some really, really important topics to discuss. So we're gonna kick off with a nice, easy question. It's the question that every guest gets. Mahatma Prabhu, please tell us a little bit about you and where you are from.
Yeah. I was born in Chile. My father is Spaniard, my mother French. And on the side of my mother, her last name is Freire, derived from the word friar. So she's actually a descendant of ex-mendicant French monks. And I have a great-grand-uncle who he's like the George Washington of Chile, actually. He liberated Chile from Spain and was elected president of Chile 3 times in the 1820s. And but the spiritual gene of the family, his name is General Raymond Freire. And learning about him helped me understand myself somewhat, you know. But my mother manifested the spiritual gene of the family, and she studied to be a nun. But she decided to marry and have children. She told me she prayed about me being a devotee, a mystic, before she met my dad. So I have very good spiritual self-esteem. She could have prayed harder and gotten a better son, but you know, yeah, she got according to her sincerity. So yeah, she could have gotten a better son, I think. In any case, at 12 years old, I read my first book on love, The Art of Loving by Eric Fromm. And then I started practicing Hatha Yoga. At 15, I started chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. By that time, I was in LA, California already. And then I started practicing Kundalini Yoga, Siddha Yoga, and was part of the Jesus Freak movement, you could say. I was in the trenches of that, praying to Jesus a lot. And then I got a book, the Krishna book, where it was explained that Siddha Loka is inferior, or it's a lower planetary system than Krishna Loka. And I said, wait a minute. I thought I was going to the highest planet. So I did an analysis and I said, oh, yes, Krishna Loka is superior, you know. So I started going to the Sunday feast, reading back to Prabhupada magazine. I mean, back to Godhead magazine, and I joined full time after working 3 years at Warner Brothers, having a near-death experience in which I prayed very sincerely to Krishna. I realized I was using Krishna for my self-promotion, and he could kill me. So I prayed, Krishna, if I have any credit with you, you can kill me if you want, but if I have any credit, let me live and I'll go and surrender to you. So as soon as I got home, I went to a Christian, you know, freaks, they used to call them, center near my house. And that guy predicted that in 2 years, I would start doing very, very significant service to God. You know, and 2 years later, I joined ISKCON. So, yep. So I went looking for him. And he had moved to another city, 80,000 inhabitant city, about half an hour away. I had the faith that if I went over there, I would, you know, find him. So the neighbor said, "Oh, we know." I helped him move. He's in a white house, 2-story, with a green roof in front of a park. Sure enough, I parked right in front of the house. I parked right in front of the house, and there was Daniel coming down from the driveway, and of course I wanted to make him a devotee, right? So he knew. Oh, I remember you 2 years ago, and I remember the very, very psychic guy. I remember the prophecy I said about you. And now I was camouflaged, but he could tell I was a Hare Krishna now. He said, "Oh, you're a Hare Krishna now." I said, "Yes, I am." Okay, good. Now, let me tell you, I know you come here to make me a devotee, but the Lord already told me what to do. I'm supposed to go with my Christian band all over the country, praising Jesus and so forth. I do go and have your Sunday feast once in a while, and so forth, and you're welcome here anytime, but don't tell my congregation that you are Hare Krishna. I can understand it, but they wouldn't. By the way, the Lord is telling me right now that the service that you're going to do for him, he's going to reveal it to you in the Hare Krishna movement, you know? So this is all up my alley, you know? I mean, like, I'm really... to me, you know, this is a fascinating aspect of mysticism. There's like supernatural stuff. Before joining ISKCON, I had Soham mantra one time, repeats itself, Soham in Sanskrit. Out of its own accord inside my body, I could hear it, and I could hear it vibrate in my throat chakra as if that area was like the external part of a speaker. So I'm into that type of thing. It's very important to me. Those experiences that I've had like that have given me a lot of faith, and I've had about 20 of those. And so, you know, then I went back to the temple, and then I did this research in 1986 on Jesus. I went looking for Daniel again, but I couldn't find him. I wanted to tell him about Jesus in India. So September of 77, I joined ISKCON. San Diego, California. Gunagrahya Swami was a Brahma, he was a householder then. He was the president. Mahatma Das was vice president. And that was September. In May of 78, I went to Los Angeles and I joined the Spanish BBT, but I didn't have the qualifications. I worked a little bit in the International Office of Public Affairs with Mukunda Maharaj and Nandini Devidasi and others. And that's when I started kind of to wake up, because my service was to put file newspaper articles from all over the world, as to what was going on in relationship to the movement and the world, the rest of the world. And I started reading some of these articles, and some of these articles were pretty crazy stuff, like when Hansaduta, went crazy in a plane, and the plane had to land, and he was arrested and so forth when he was high on something, etc. So when they saw that Bhakta Mario, a new Bhakta, was reading this thing, then they took that service away from me. So I became like an opportunist in New Dwarka. Whenever there was a void of personnel, of devotees to man, particular department, I would step in and I would take care of it. So I was in charge of the reception, the Faith Museum, and the life membership. Mahaprasadam, I like that service. I was in charge of the Mahaprasadam and had my share of Mahaprasadam in that way. Folk membership, I got to have $15,000 in the account. So then this lady came and she donated $15,000. I preached to her. She donated $15,000 to print the book, Coming Back, right? But the authorities, they saw that she was interested in me, and she was very wealthy, and they were interested in her money. They didn't care so much about me, so they asked me to leave and so forth. She offered me $500,000 to marry her, and so yeah, that was quite something. That's when I saw your interview in Mathura Prabhu, he reminded me, of my younger years. When I came from Chile, I was at the Playboy, whatever building on Sunset Boulevard with the Playboy girls. How do you call it? Playboy bunnies and so forth. So
Can I
yeah.
just ask, Prabhu, did you marry the woman and get half a
Oh,
million?
this lady
Yeah.
that I was seduced by her. You probably heard about it. No, I didn't. I didn't. If I had married her, I would have ended up crippled, in jail, dead, or all of the above, because she was really, she could be very scary. I used to think, wow, we would make an incredible couple, but she was taking cocaine and in secret, right? And she she had a temper to begin with, from Colombia originally. And so when she took that thing, she became very scary. I was the guest master of the monastery, right, of New Dwarka. So I had to talk to all kinds of people. And she saw me, according to her, we had like a relationship and we were going to marry eventually, right? But even if it had been $20 million, I would have not accepted. I said, I don't even have a bank account. I'm a brahmachari. I cannot do this. What are they going to think? You were suggesting we go to Vegas and get married. What's my family going to think? I cannot do this. But we need $15,000 to print this book. And she said, oh, they will become favorable toward us if I donate that money. So she wrote a check. Then she asked me, any amount of money you want. You've been so kind to me and everything. I said, no, no, no. I cannot accept anything. And so soon after that, I left. I saw that she was she was taking this cocaine. That's the problem, right? So I went to San Francisco, and in 2 days, she was at my doorstep, you know. Um, During that time, actually, she had like $1 million, and we spent the night at Amberish's apartment in San Francisco, and he took us sightseeing all over San Francisco as part of a possible business deal between her and him, investing in the Ford, buying Ford stocks, the Ford Motor Company. In any case, so no, I left, and she was there soon after, and I called a devotee, a bhakta that had a moving company in North Carolina, and it so happened that one of his trucks was coming into San Francisco, and I jumped in the truck and I left, to North Carolina, worked there. Then I spent 2 years in Miami, and then I went to India for the second time. I've spent a total of 13 months traveling all over India. So
Wow.
some of the services I've done is like folk membership. I started that in LA, and then I consider the significant services. Um, of course, I don't do anything. If I could do my own heartbeat and my own breathing, and I had made the sun, I had made the air, I can say I did something, right? But no, Krishna does everything. But he utilizes us due to his mercy, right? So with Paratrikananda, we started the Prabhupada Festival in 1990 because I knew that we needed to do, consciousness of Prabhupada. So in 1990 and 1991, I was the main sponsor and nuts and bolts person for the Prabhupada Festival. In 1996, I realized that Prabhupada wanted, I read the purposes of ISKCON, and Prabhupada mentions the word together, unity, and Sankirtan in 4 of the 7 purposes for ISKCON. So I was trying to see what I could do for Prabhupada. So I said, okay, bingo, I have to do a Prabhupada Family Reunion because Prabhupada wants unity and cooperation toward trust and love. So I jumped at that opportunity. So I've been an opportunist, you could say. The moment I saw also the opportunity for me to become a direct disciple of Prabhupada, I jumped at that for sure. On May 22nd of 1986, 9 years after I joined, we had a talk with I had a talk with Bhakti Sarup Damodar Swami. I had been the acting temple president in San Francisco, and he housed the Bhaktivedanta Institute there at that time on Carl Street. So I told him, I need a spiritual name. There's no credibility without a spiritual name. And, I said, yeah, I'll give you the name. However, Maharaj, I am a disciple of Prabhupada. I don't see myself being the disciple of anyone else. So I just want to make this very, very clear that you are just giving me the name and I would be a disciple of Prabhupada. And he agreed. He was very hurt at that time because he had cultivated several devotees, particularly in Tirupati. And all those devotees were so-called initiated by Jayapataka Swami. And he was very, very hurt. So he was like, he will do anything to have another follower, another sort of disciple or something. So he gave me my Japamala and gave me my name in a simple ceremony at Harkipuri in the banks of the Ganges. And your Mahatma Das, he put the Japamala in the water and gave it to me after that. And so I said, great. So in this way, I became the first that I knew of at that time, May 22nd of 1986. That same day, Suloshan was murdered in LA. And so I became the first one. Later on, I found out there was a devotee by the name of Rishikesh who gave in 1978 a sort of Rtvik ceremony initiation. But he became later on an ISKCON guru, and his disciple accepted an ISKCON guru. So I don't consider that valid. Yep. So that was May 22nd, 1986.
So I mean that was kind of one of my questions, which you've really nicely answered. Is you do describe yourself as a Prabhupadanuga Ritvik ceremony initiate, and
Correct.
I mean you've certainly said here that you believe you're the first, as of
After Prabhupada left, because he was
yeah
doing this since 1970 while he was here in his body.
yeah. I mean, and I have no knowledge other than believing you. Was what I'm trying to say, that you are the first to take Ritvik initiation. I mean, I'm not aware of any others. Uh,
There
you
weren't
know,
there weren't any others until 1999 when Madhupati and Chanchalapati in Bangalore initiated I think a couple of dozen Ritvik system, because Krishna Kant had convinced them about the Ritvik system that Prabhupada talked about, wrote about. Devotees don't know, in part because the last will and testament was locked up by Hansadutta in a safe until Puranjana broke into it, Puranjana Das, of Pada. And there, Prabhupada said, can be executive director of ISKCON property, provided he is my initiated disciple.
Mm.
So this is it's a legal document, right? And Prabhupada is saying here that after he leaves the body, he will still have disciples. So there's when I became, I had this Ritvik type of ceremony, it was mainly a thing of sentiment, a feeling for Prabhupada, an understanding that in this movement, you have to be a disciple of Prabhupada, not this other and nobody else. I mean, that was very clear to me, but it was mainly based on feeling of the heart. I was developing love for Prabhupada, and later on it became more mature, right? Later on, I found out that Prabhupada had a conversation with Tamal Krishna on April 22nd of 1977. And Tamal Krishna told Prabhupada, I know that none of us are qualified to be guru, and Prabhupada agreed with him. Then on May 27th of 1977, he had a conversation with Babananda, and Babananda told Prabhupada, I know for certain that many of your disciples are going to jump to be guru after you're no longer with us. And Prabhupada responded, well, a strict vigilance and good management is required, so that may not happen. But that was the response. So all of this is available information. The day after, May 28th, there's various versions, but you can't help but to whatever version, because they've tweaked it. They have spliced the tape recording and everything. So devotees took this to forensic analysis and so forth. So, but any version that you listen to, you will see that there was like kind of an anxiety from the devotees that were asking Prabhupada as to what to do after you are no longer with us regarding first and second initiation. They wanted Prabhupada to say, you're going to be initiated and you're going to have your own disciples. But Prabhupada never said that. He never said that. Officiating Acharya, you're going to be. Tamal Krishna said, is that Rtvik? Yes, Rtvik. Prabhupada had explained this to Tamal Krishna. The evidence is from Gauridas Pandit Das. He lived with me for a whole year. Also, Puranjana lived in my house for a whole year. These devotees have a lot of information. Gauridas Pandit Das, he said that there was over 20 recordings. He was working the recording machine, the tape recorder, and he would give the tapes to Tamal Krishna after that. And Prabhupada talked about this Rtvik system, explaining in detail many things about it. So this is why Tamal Krishna knew about this. But all of those tape recordings have not ever been found. That's the argument of Gauridas Pandit Das. And but on May 28th, as I was saying, Prabhupada explained, Tamal Krishna, is this Rtvik? Yes, Rtvik, right? So generally in the regular course of things, Prabhupada said, and I'm paraphrasing, you have a guru, and then you have another guru, and then you have grand disciple, right? So, but when I order, at the end of the conversation, Prabhupada said, when I order, you can do this. Regular guru, he said, you can be regular guru. He said it 3 times, when I order. But there's been devotees. I saw one in your podcast from India. He said, I'm willing to give $10 million to anybody that has any proof that there is an order. I personally signed a document to a devotee. He was a temple commander in LA at the Rath Yatra. I signed a document. You're willing to sign? Yes. I offer him $108,000 and I signed. If you can give me, I'll give you this, right? He never showed up because there is no such evidence. There is no such evidence. There is no order anywhere, no? And the order is required. Not only the qualification, but the order is required. And the qualification is not something light. Prabhupada says in Srimad Bhagavatam 117 in the purport, can sit on the Vyasasana. Nobody can sit on the Vyasasana unless fully conversant in all systems of philosophy, such as those authored by Pantajali, Jaimini, Ashtavaka, Kanada, Gautama, Vedavyas, and Kapila. He doesn't mention Vedavyas in that instance, I recall, but he mentions all the other 6 systems of philosophy. Unless you're fully conversant in all systems of philosophy, you cannot sit on the Vyasasana. Prabhupada says that. In that Srimad Bhagavatam, again, 117 in the purport, right? And these systems are, very, very vast. You can pick any verse in any of these systems that you can give a lecture for 3 months on just one verse, right? But so it's not easy. So vast, because you're supposed to test the guru, right? The guru also has to test the disciple. That's the philosophy. That's the culture. So I asked Navayogendra Swami, I asked Gaura Govinda Swami, I asked Radha Govinda Swami, Navayogendra, and Radha Govinda Swami, all those 3. I asked, Maharaj, who are the authors of these 6 systems of philosophy, or 7 systems of philosophy, 7 systems at the end of the day? Baba, that's going to take long time. I could lecture to you for 3 months on this subject matter. I said, Maharaj, no, we don't have 3 months, and we don't even have 3 minutes. I just want, I just want you to let me know who are these, the authors. It would take you less than 10 seconds or 20 seconds. Well, so the disciple says, Jaimini is one of them, Maharaj. Yes, Jaimini, yes. Kapila is another one. Yes, Kapila, yes. He didn't know. None of them knew. Navayogendra Swami, Gaura Govinda Swami, and Radha Govinda Swami. A lot of people say, Prabhupada authorized Gaura Govinda Swami and Radha Govinda Swami, Indian devotees to initiate. I sat next to Radha Govinda Swami. I had the Bhagavatam on that page. I said, Maharaj, who are the authors of the 7 systems of philosophy? And he said, Baba, that has nothing to do with bhakti. Absolutely nothing. Oh, I see. Okay, but you accept Prabhupada's Bhagavatam, don't you? Oh, of course. He's my guru. So, okay, well, what do you read here? And it says, nobody can sit on the Vyasasana unless fully conversant in all systems of philosophy, such as those authored by, all the 6 authors in that instance are named. He saw that, he didn't say one word, got up and left. And then I tried to ask devotees about, the history of rumors of different devotees. And I've gone as far as hiring a private investigator to investigate about 15 devotees, right? Because there's so much going on, you have to get to the bottom of it. It's not enough to know the philosophy. You have to know the history, and you have to know who is who in this movement, right? So I've gone as far. So I investigated, and sure enough, some of these devotees, I found devotees that, have a very bad record, violent record. It's interesting because they've done and they keep doing incredible service, But there's this other side to all of us, isn't there? So so it's important, to find out. So I found out that one of these 3 swamis, he had been in jail in Vrindavan, etc. Right? Other devotee pulled the gun on somebody one time, etc. So it's very important. I advocate that just like any successful serious company, they do a background check. Any devotee that comes, that wants to have a position or something, it doesn't matter if he lives within the institution or something, or you're going to be close. You better investigate that person, really, because it's just the thing to do, right? You don't want to be taken. You don't want some criminal, some crazy person, some, child abuser or something, somebody with a record like that. But devotees are very loose. Some devotee one time said, "Oh, I found this guy. He's like, Navy SEAL, this and that. He has this international emergency ambulance by plane all over the world and everything." And I investigated the guy. He's a total fraud. He was a total fraud. All it just was like make believe, right? I even investigated where he lived. Yeah, he lived in houses that were over $1 million, but the amount of child abusers in that area, sex offender, was huge in comparison to other areas. Huh? So I really advocate that we have to, but sometimes because we have this sentiment, we're alone. Sometimes we're alone, and we want to link up and be together and cooperate with each other to preach better and so forth. We look the other way, we forget, and we end up with somebody that smokes pot, drinks, and he's slapping Prabhupada on the face at every turn. So yeah, so we have to investigate. We cannot, but some devotees, they know that somebody's crooked, but because of money, they look the other way. So these things have to change,
Can I just ask two questions? One, can you just clarify? So before 1986, you didn't take initiation within ISKCON in the sense that
Correct.
no one else gave you a different name. You were
I
always
was, I was,
Mario.
yeah, no, nobody. I was under pressure, right? That I should take initiation. And finally, because of the pressure, I wrote a letter to be accepted by Rameshwar, but Krishna wanted a different thing, Rameshwar said there is not enough personal sentiment for me for you to become my disciple. And I was trying to write a letter as honestly as I could, and you'd think that that, that
Mm.
I didn't think of him, he could see that. So yeah, I didn't take any, but I was under a little pressure. But and at the end, I had to bend to the pressure. But still, my letter did not reflect, a sentiment, bhaktiya, a feeling, pure feeling, right? For Rameshwar, so he rejected me, and that's the big blessing. So, and then later on, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami, he tried to make me his disciple. When he came into LA one time, he said, "Mahatma, you and I have to talk." So we talked. I said, "Mahatma, you have to understand that you are not like my god brothers." I said, "Maharaj, I made it so clear. I could have not made it any more clear, that I was going to be Prabhupada's disciple, not your disciple. I made it very clear to you. So I'm sorry, but I'm not going to become your disciple. I know what you're after." After that, I received I'm not saying that these people are bad people, but they're not perfect people, and they're far from perfect, The Naistiki Brahmacharis turn out they're not Naistiki Brahmachari, And they have the gall to say that they're Naistiki Brahmachari when there's so much evidence that they were not, right? Because we get to find out things, right? People talk and so forth. So, so he went away, and then when I got a few months after that talk, I got an inheritance of like 76,000, and he contacted me and he wanted a loan of $10,000. And I said, I'm going to feel real stupid if I don't get the loan back. And you have to have a little self-respect, right? So I said, "Maharaj, I'll be willing to lend you $1,000, and you have to give it back to me within 3 months." And that's what happened, and that was the end of our relationship. He wouldn't even look at me after that. No problem, you have to stick with Prabhupada. You have to stick with the Parampara. You have to stick with the Mahajans, this whole conversation that Ramananda Roy had with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to South India. Went to most of the places he went to in South India. And the devotees were crying because he was leaving. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, devotees, please understand, your life is more dear to me than my own life, but I have to go meet Ramananda Roy in the south. So they had a 7 day and night conversation, right? And the question was, because Mahaprabhu was always asking his main 5 associates, Murari Gupta, Damodar, Ramananda Roy, right? Chief was this. He asked, Ramananda Roy, please tell me. He always wanted to hear the philosophy. He wanted to hear about Radha Krishna and so forth. So please tell me, which is the most important principle in life? And Ramananda Roy went on for 7 days and nights. The description is that they didn't even eat or nothing. They were totally absorbed in discussion. And he said, in 7 days and nights, trust you me, that you can say a lot of things, right? He said he went through Varnashram. He even said, focusing on the love that Radha has for Krishna, right? That's like the highest, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected all of them. All of them, you know? Until when? Until Ramananda Roy. And Ramananda Roy is considered to be an incarnation of Arjuna by some devotees, or one of the gopis or manjaris by other devotees. In other words, Ramananda Roy is no small. He's a Mahajan. He's one of the greatest, right? So after 7 days and nights, after everything else was rejected, Ramananda Roy is the most important principle in life, he said, is sadhu sangha. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have now ascertained Ramananda Roy. Please elaborate, please elaborate. So I'm really low tech, but so, and then I didn't have computer and so forth. There was no computers then. So Ramananda Roy said that this sadhu sangha has to do with identifying a Mahajan. Mahajan, very great personality. That's what it means. Siddha, perfect, right? Nitya Siddha, Kripa Siddha, or Sadhana Siddha must be perfect. Uttama Adhikari must be of the topmost level of devotion, right? So I started looking in the books and see the words that equate to Mahajan, So Uttama, Mahabhagavat, all of these equate to Mahajan. So it's not, I always used to think that it was the association with the God brothers and God sisters. No. Sadhu Sangha means you identify, a Mahajan in the Sampradaya, the current link, the current Sampradaya Acharya, and you make his loving service your life and soul. This is the most important. This is the most important principle in life, right? But the whole movement is wrong in this principle. That's why we have so many problems. See? No matter what you do, because there are some devotees that are amazing devotees. Their sadhana is impeccable. They've been chanting, record of 20 years without missing one day of chanting all the rounds, making Mangalartik, so many things. So you can do a lot of things. But if you're wrong in Guru Tattva Siddhanta, the conclusive perfect truth as to who is the guru, then the equation at the end is going to be wrong. Right? You make one mistake, the end so this is what's going on in the movement right now. So little by little, all of this started maturing, my understanding that what I had done was correct. But I was alone for 13 years before anybody else had Ritvik ceremony. So it matured. Then I learned about what, the July 9th letter, right, or directive on initiations. If you read that carefully, Prabhupada states in 3 different ways the same thing, and that is that all the initiated will be his initiated disciples. That's the July 9th, right, letter. After that, he was asked, these people are waiting for initiation. He said, I already deputed for you to do the ceremony. Jayapataka can do in Mayapur, etc., right? So he emphasizes Ritvik ceremony. And this Ritvik ceremony it so happens, I understand that in the Mahabharata, Vedavyas, which is the author of the system we follow, is described as the supreme Rtvik, and Rtvik is all over the Mahabharata, and that's why Jayananda Maharaj did not translate the Mahabharata. Nanda Kumar Prabhu told me he had the manuscript, and he told me that his secretary came, gave him that, and told him he decided not to because Rtvik is all over the Mahabharata. It's 28 times or something in the Bhagavatam. So Rtvik is actually the most common way for us to get initiated by the true bona fide spiritual master. Ramanujacharya, up to this day, he's doing Jesus Christ. Up to this day, to the clergy, Prabhupada said, in the name of Jesus Christ, I baptize you as his servant, like that. So Jesus Christ, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, even Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, there was a period of 200 years in between, but one considers the other his Diksha Guru. Even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, he put a picture of his Guru, and he was his own Rtvik. His Guru had passed away on 1915. He gave himself his Rtvik ceremony. He was his own Rtvik in front of the picture of his Guru. And then Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj passed away, I think, the 1st of January. And two German ladies got a Rtvik ceremony in March of that year, 2 months later. So this is is the most common system by which one becomes the disciple of a true bona fide spiritual master. So Prabhupada says that when there is no purity, then it's broken. When you have false guru, then the line is broken. Like that. So my experience, I saw a change in my life, like anything. Everything started to become better. Everything, the health, the economy, relationship, and my ability to convince other people. Karmis are not stupid, When I explain to them these differences between the true guru and the false guru in the Hare Krishna movement, they're smart people. It makes total sense to them, So this is the history that I've lived in relationship to Rtvik ceremony.
Thank you for sharing all that. I just want to ask a question about a personality called Kapindra Swami.
Yes.
He's now left the planet. He's
Yes.
passed on, but he
Yes.
was carrying out Ritvic initiations for many years, wasn't he? I believe.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet him? Did you know him?
I met him in New York in 1980 or 1986. One of those two times that I went to India, I came back. I met him. Uh, and I met him that time, and we had a little interaction. So I don't think that at that time he had been initiating. But now that you bring it up, I never thought, tell you the truth, and there is a chance that that he may have given, but it seems to me that he got going after 1986 with the initiations. And my interaction with him, he was very orthodox. This is like too strict, and that I kind of bounced off of him because of that. And after that, he contacted me a few times because he needed some help to establish certain services and so forth.
Hmm. I think the reason that I mention his name because his name kind of cropped up in my head as someone who over many decades carried out Ritvic initiations.
Yeah.
I know devotees in the UK, Prabhupadanuga devotees who uh, he is
Yeah.
part of their spiritual journey,
Yeah. Yeah.
however you interpret that. And I know as soon as this podcast goes out, because we have such a big audience and it's so
Uh-huh.
far-ranging. I know somebody's going to get in touch and say something, and I'm just
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
cover all
I have
angles.
no problem. I have
I
no
guess I'm being
problem.
devil's advocate. You may possibly be the first on May the 22nd, 1986, but I can think of two people that watch this podcast that if are going to get in touch with me. I'm not saying their names. I can tell you their names privately after, but yeah, but we'll see. But
I would have no problem if somebody, if somebody had a Ritvik ceremony by Kapendra Maharaj. I pay my obeisance 100 times to them, and then I was the second or the third. These things are not so important. The important thing is the Ritvik ceremony, philosophy, and orders from Prabhupada. He wrote about these things. These things are in his last will and testament, the July 9th directive, right? He was asked about it on May 28th. He said Riddick. Then he said, I already have deputed some of you, right? And then he again on October 8th of 1977 in a Bengali conversation in Vrindavan, Prabhupada said, I have brought these Vanaras, monkeys. He gave the translation because monkey in Sanskrit is Vanara, right? Monkeys like Meleshas and Yavanas, he said. No one amongst them is fully qualified. Prabhupada said that. May 28th, 1977 in Vrindavan. October. Sorry. That was October 8th, 1977 in Vrindavan. Of course, there is a recording also and a video. That video has been taken off YouTube, claiming copyright by ISKCON. But in that video, Prabhupada also, when Prabhupada said, take me out of here and take me to Govardhan Hill, right, on November 10th of 1977. The devotee said his closest secretaries, Krishna Bhavananda, Bhakti Sharu was there, Lokanath Swami was there, etc. They said, no, Prabhupada, we don't want to take you there because if we take you there, we are afraid that you may die. And Prabhupada responded to this very interestingly. He said, Rama can kill and Ravana can kill. Better to be killed by Rama. you know, incredible, the power of Prabhupada. Of course, before that, he had made a poison complaint, that Naveen Krishna Prabhu, together with Dear Govinda, Nityananda, and others, they have, done a huge amount of forensic analysis of hair and recordings and so forth. So Prabhupada knew. He made a poison complaint. He was an Ayurvedic manufacturer, Prabhupada. So he knew the effects. And he did say that, no, it's like these effects are like, the symptoms is like poisoning. So these devotees have become completely convinced that Prabhupada, knew he was being poisoned. He compared his secretaries to Ravana. And now I paid personally for some of the poisoning, the hair samples. I have a letter from the scientists advocating for a criminal investigation on the case. I helped. It was like $139 or something that I contributed. That's all. But then I also, in 2001, when the investigation was becoming dormant, I called for a meeting at my house then in California, in the high desert, an hour northeast of Los Angeles. Naveen Krishna came from Alachua. Mandapa came from New Zealand or Australia. Then Jitarati came from the Philippines. Shakshi Gopal came also from Australia, and so forth. And Some stayed for 3-4 days, others 5 days, another one stayed for a month in my home until he went to India to continue the investigation. So yeah, and as a result of that, Naveen Krishna came out with the book, Judge for Yourself, right? So yeah, so and then you judge, right, by the fruits. Prabhupada says, right, by the fruits shall you know them, right? So these are 11 original voted in gurus, which is not the way to select Diksha Guru. 3 of them ended up in jail. One of them had a 30-year sentence, 3 of them are suspects in the poisoning of Srila Prabhupada. It's alleged by the key investigators. 3 of them were child abusers, and $26 million had to be paid by ISKCON for abusing 700 of their own children. Mm. I don't think that it's not accented, although I've read some of the of one significant, the court records of one significant case when sexual abuse was mentioned there from the age of 3 years old in this case, and so forth. The emphasis was not on sexual abuse, which is general abuse, right? But there was sexual abuse. Why? Because 3 of the original 11 were child abusers. And then Jayatirtha, he formed a cult, a destructive cult based on illicit sex and LSD. He used to preach that LSD was the dust of the lotus feet of Radharani, right? So he was having illicit sex with the wives of his disciples, and one of his disciples murdered him, killed him because of that. So you judge by the result. Jayananda, for example, has been proving he never followed all the principles. He was a vegetarian. Other than that, he didn't follow all the principles. That's been confirmed,
Prabhu, can I ask, can we change the conversation a bit and talk a bit about books? I was just going through my list of issues to discuss with you, and you've already talked about some of your contributions to Prabhupada's movement. The Prabhupada Fest 1990, the Prabhupada Family Reunion 1996. You also told me in an email that you've also helped uh, or you've supported in the past the legal case that gave
Yes.
the KBI the rights to print the original books.
Yeah. By
Can
the
you
way,
can you tell
I
can you tell us a
admire
bit
your
about that?
ability.
Yeah, tell us a bit about that if you can.
Yeah, no problem. Well, in the mid and late 90s, there was Narayan Vishvakarma, Yashodanandana, Gupta, Hansaduta, of course. He was the center of all this. Bhima Das was his name, from Hong Kong, diamond trader, follower of Hansaduta. He had $100,000 ready to go to take, take this issue into the courts and so forth. But there was one thing, and that was that they didn't have all the corporation papers of the BBT and ISKCON. They didn't have certified copies. So, I'm kind of an opportunist, right? I said, okay, I can go. I'm low tech, and I know I should try to do this. And so I volunteered. I'll get those papers. Don't worry, And I went downtown, and and then I went into the building, and I think it's microchip machine that you roll it and you go through many, and finally came in there, and bingo, I made copies, I got them certified, and I delivered those to Bhima. And without that, they would have not been able to start a case. And Bhima, knowing that I was very, very poor, he insisted on that I accept $100 for this service, and I did, because I've always been very poor, kind of, I landed in India the first time in 1980 with $139, and I stayed there 4 months. In 1986, I landed in India with $39, and I traveled all over India for 9 months. So, but the lepers, they're very, very charitable. The lepers would see me, foreign sadhu, please come, and they would give me a banana or something, and that way that's how I survived. But other than that, I was very, very poor, mendicant on the street, suffering from 5 different types of dysentery and all that. I could have died, but Krishna protected me. So yeah, I had something to do with that. Yes, that's the service I did of getting the certified copies of the corporation papers of the BBT and ISKCON, and that's why these devotees were able to go to court and they got the rights to print the original books via Krishna Books Incorporated. In relationship to this, also, some little donation I gave here and there, my economy became a little better to print books and the original books. And then I bought a lot of the original books for devotees to do Sankirtan. I remember buying like $700-800 at a time of original books for distribution. Last year, something significant. No, it was 2023, so beyond 1 year. Abhimanyu, who Hansadutta gave him power of attorney to continue to be the BBT trustee. I don't know. He claims that this is totally valid. I don't know. He showed me all the papers and everything, and I think he has some arguments. I think he does know a lot of things that other people don't know. What legal restriction, what court is that you have to approach. He keeps insisting there's a probate court that needs to be, all of these things need to be done at. And the issue is that devotees don't trust each other, right? So, and devotees want to, I don't know, I hope I'm wrong, but devotees seem to want to do a significant service, for them to look better or something, or to be thought of as some higher personality or something. Prabhupada talks about this artificial, trying to pass us artificially as an advanced devotee is very, very bad thing. In any case, so so these devotees, they compete a lot, and Prabhupada talks about this. It's very important, unity and cooperation. I compiled everything Prabhupada said about that. It's in Prabhupadanuga's worldwide.org in articles, right? I compiled everything about unity and cooperation, which is the mission of ISKCON. Prabhupada started the League of Devotees for that, because this is the desire of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, preach in unity and cooperation. So everybody's rejecting that, and instead we're becoming autocrats, right? We don't follow the direction of management, but Prabhupada says every 3 years the leader has to be, the temple president is voted in or out, and the GBC by the temple presidents every 3 years. That nobody has done since 1970, since Prabhupada ordered it, whether Rtvik or not, right? So, so these devotees don't get along. They don't trust each other. We don't trust each other. I don't trust either. My realization, the only ones you can really trust is Prabhupada, Jayananda, the previous acharyas, the 6 Goswamis, Krishna, and Lord Chaitanya. Those that you don't see, those that don't have body, material body, you can trust them. Definitely, you can trust them. But the God brother, unfortunately, we cannot fully trust, right? Nobody can trust me fully either. Why should they? They shouldn't. They should trust Jayananda. That's my realization. Trust Jayananda, you can do that. Prabhupada, you can trust, definitely. So that's what I preach. But, this devotee was in a bad situation, and I said, okay, you come to my place in Florida, and I'll give you a very nice room. I rented a very nice house at that time for a year. It cost me $18,000 to rent that place. And he had first class facility, and prasadam, and I gave him everything. I bought a high resolution scanner, and this devotee scanned. I had 25 original books. So, and then we made a little propaganda, and other devotees pitched in, and we got another 75 original books. And we scanned 100 original books, It took 7 months I just supplied everything that was needed. He did the work. And so they are in 3 clouds. And I understand that he was able to print the Russian original Bhagavad Gita. He's from Russia. So yeah, I Prabhupada's heart is the BBT, his books, So anything that we can do to
Yeah,
nurture Prabhupada's heart is extremely important.
I mean, I agree with you 108%. You and I are on that issue. You and I are cut from the same cloth. We at the Hare Krishna Project, we only distribute Prabhupada's original books.
Very nice.
It's just absurd to think why would anyone not? Uh, it's yeah. I mean, I'm trying to be rational about it. Why, people are. I still see pictures of devotees in ISKCON distributing the newer Bhagavad Gitas, and I want to scream. I just want to scream.
Yeah, even the Ritviks, even Madhu Pandit in India, he was distributing, buying from the Indian BBT, the change books, and distributing. Now I understand he changed. So it's very important that when we're like deviating or not doing the right thing, that devotees uh, warn each other and help each other in that regard. It used to be, when you were falling to sleep, chanting your rounds, Hare Krishna, and walk you up and okay, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, or if you looked at a girl or something, Haribo, Prabhu, what are you doing? It was like, that's how it was then. Now, if you do this type of things, then who the hell do you think you are? You're critical, you're against unity, whatever. You're being, what do you call it? Yeah, they don't like, we don't like it when devotees try to help us go. Prabhupada says verbatim and strictly. So when we try to help each other, we're not so receptive nowadays. Everybody wants to do their own thing against Prabhupada. And that's a problem. When you go against Prabhupada, that's a Guru Aparat. That's, you don't follow the direction of management, that's Guru Aparat. You don't follow unity and cooperation toward trust and love, that's Guru Aparat. You don't follow, everybody should follow the example of Jayananda, that's Guru Aparat. Is disobeying the order of the spiritual master, is a mad elephant offense, right? So, but I've gotten a little, I have been given a little hard time by, sticking to my guns on this, because I don't see how are we going to get out of the modes of ignorance and passion, chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita, unless we follow these orders of Prabhupada. Original books, unity and cooperation, example of Jayananda, right? Direction of management every 3 years. You see, we're not educated enough. That's the problem. We're not as sophisticated as we think we are. We're not. Because to have unity and cooperation, guess what? You have to have good communication skills. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. You have to learn some basic communication skills, tools for better communication. We have to learn how to hear the other person. We're too busy getting ready to share what it is that we want to say, and we don't hear the other person, right? So you cannot, conflict resolution, you will have to understand a little bit about conflict resolution. So we have to become a little bit more sophisticated, and the leaders at least should have at least some basic idea on these things. Otherwise, we'll continue with the autocratic, with the right-hand man enforcer type of sex, or that we have all over, and we'll have no unity and cooperation, right?
Yeah.
The same with direction of management. The thing is that when you're voted in, that's a wonderful thing, and the devotees will support you, right? Because they think that you are the best one, so you have support, right? And then when you're voted out, guess what? It's a great opportunity for you to practice meekness and humbleness before the God brothers, right? But not only that, Prabhupada is a total genius. He knows that with this system, nobody is going to accumulate a lot of power and the devotee will be happy and so forth. And with this system, guess what? You create leaders. This system goes against followers, you see, because this philosophy is no followers, no beautiful women, right? No followers. I don't want any followers, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. I don't want any beautiful women. And what's the other one? No accumulation of wealth. But the whole movement is about a lot of followers, beautiful women and men, and accumulation of wealth. This is totally the opposite, you know? So what happens is that you create followers. You create the sheep, you know? Practically all of these followers, they're following like termite. The queen termite has this power, chemical power, and all the termites, although they're totally blind, you know the termites don't sleep 24/7 all through their life. They work for that. They're like totally like brainwashed to work for the queen termite. So we must know what's going on, but this, providing information as needed, and that's all for you to do your service. That's termite philosophy. It's not, why hide anything? It's Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says we should discuss openly. No secrets, no plotting, Prabhupada says. But the autocrats are always plotting. Always secret meeting. We're going to, okay, I've been there because they tried to recruit me. I said, Mahatma, we need to investigate so-and-so. You're good at investigation. And we have to get money from these. I said, no, that's not the system. We have to openly discuss it so everybody is enthused as to what it is that we're going to do. And in this way, we don't get any followers, but we can create leaders. So, yeah, I remember you asked, so how to fix this? This is how to fix it. This is how to fix it. We have to know the philosophy. That means, number one, who is the guru? Prabhupada is the guru, nobody else. Diksha Guru, absolute Shiksha and Diksha Guru. That becomes very clear very fast if you research this, right? Two, second most important principle in life is chanting purely. Then you have to follow the order of the spiritual master. Unity and cooperation toward trust and love. Is there anything else nicer than trust and love? There isn't. It's sweet. It's the best. If you get one person in your life that's embodied that you can do that with, you're in bliss, guaranteed. What if you get two or three? Then it's like incredibly, it's like here, Anubhavananda and I here, it's just wonderful to have a true gentleman, living with you, to have a true gentleman, associating with you every day. It's just a wonderful thing. And so you need the example of Jayananda. Jayananda is really the best tool to get all our egos smashed real good, for good, forever. Why? Because he's humility personified. I want to say a few things about Jayananda. It's very important. That's why
Yes,
Prabhupada
please.
said,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Jayananda was born in a family of very decent Christians, well-to-do, decent Christians, And he was first taken to the church when he was 4 years old. And he was up on those seats, and he was just looking around everywhere and so forth. So his family members said, what's going on with you? Settle down, sit down. What are you doing? Jayananda is 4 years old. Said, where is God? Where is God, Mom? This is a symptom. Yeah, Prabhupada says, if you're born in a family of devotees and then you have a true bona fide spiritual master, bingo. You're 50% there, Prabhupada says. So Jayananda was this fortunate. He was born in a decent Christian family. He wanted to see God. This is a symptom of devotion, right? Very, very, very important. So Jayananda then became a mechanical engineer, and went soul searching, made a move to San Francisco, where all gurus and Rinpoches and Buddhas and so forth, stopped by San Francisco, right? So he went there and he met many, many different gurus and Rinpoches and different philosophies and so forth, but he could not trust any of them. He saw that they were crooked, all of them. And his search was more intense, and he became depressed because he couldn't find anybody that was to be trusted. So he put paper in the cracks of his apartment, and he was going to turn on the gas and commit suicide. But his friend called and said, "Hey, what are you doing? We're going to have something to eat. You want to come with us?" And then he realized, oh, my friends are so nice. If I commit suicide, they're going to become very morose. So he gave up the idea and went to dinner with them, right? And then he got a flyer about Prabhupada. And he went to the lecture of Prabhupada, and he relates that after the lecture, he said, "Here is a man that I can fully trust." That was the conclusion of Jayananda. And he became totally dedicated to Prabhupada, totally dedicated. One time, Prabhupada was, if you see there's one picture of Prabhupada and Jayananda looking at each other, and Prabhupada was like, you could tell he felt dependent on Jayananda. He looked up to Jayananda, whatever Jayananda may say or suggest or advise, it was very important to Prabhupada. You can see it in his eyes in that picture, no doubt. He had total faith in Jayananda, And one time they were walking, and one devotee asked in some park in San Francisco, "Prabhupada, so after all, who is the first devotee that helped you, to distribute your books?" And Prabhupada turned to Jayananda. "Jayananda, who is the first devotee, who is the first disciple of mine that helped me to distribute my books?" And Jayananda very humbly said, "I don't know, Prabhupada. I really don't know. I don't know." "You did," he said. Prabhupada said, "You did, because you were the first one to give me $5,000 to print my books. And then you arranged to distribute them." He used to take the books to the airport for devotees to distribute there, right? And he would bring them prasadam and everything. So Jayananda was the first book distributor. He was the first one to distribute Srila Prabhupada's heart at the disciple scale, right? So then he became president of the San Francisco Temple, and the devotees felt so comfortable around him. He, like older god brother, they felt protected. He gave them plenty of prasadam, and there's so many stories. Devotees should go to Jayananda Thakur, the beautiful life of Jayananda. It was I don't know if that's still on the net, because the author of the book passed away, Vishoka Prabhu. And there's a book by such a name too. And so they should read there. It's all nectar. Jayananda is an amazing personality, amazing personality. All he knew was Prabhupada, nothing else. One time, one devotee asked him, "Jayananda, so how do we become advanced?" And Jayananda said, "Prabhu, I don't know. All I know, I have to serve Prabhupada." So he gave him the answer that way, right? And one time in New York, one devotee, new Bhakta, "You're going to be serving with Jayananda." He had heard Jayananda is like an amazing personality, and he expected to have like this saintly, looking sannyasi with a garland around his neck or something. He introduced to Jayananda. Jayananda has holes in his overall. He has grease everywhere. His hands are black, and he was like totally different, But still, he hung out and helped him. He got Donald Trump, to rent him a space to build the course. Jayananda. And then, so they were sitting at a class, and the class was about how we're so spaced out. We're not surrendered to Krishna. Instead, we're like materialists We're spaced out. That was the class. And this Bhakta, he said, yeah, but I'm with Jayananda. I'm not like these other guys here. I'm with Jayananda. Jayananda is the real thing. So he said he was feeling like, yeah, this is applied to everybody else, but not to me. Jayananda is like, he's not spaced out. And at the end of the class, I think his name was Bhakta Tom. He turned to Bhakta Tom. Bhakta Tom, let's go do service for Prabhupada because I'm the most spaced out. Let's go do service. And he was serious about it. He was serious. That's the thing. And then in that Rathayatra, he had the lumps under his arms, and all that in his neck. It was a lot of pain. Yet he danced in ecstasy for 54 blocks.
Wow.
And then there was two things that happened. One is that Lord Jagannath, which weighed a lot. It was very, very heavy. It started to fall, and the devotees that couldn't. 4 devotees couldn't. Jayananda got under that and under Lord Jagannath and lifted him up all by himself. Devotees were like shocked that he was so strong, although he had cancer all over his body. Right? I think of that same Rathayatra, the brakes of the cart didn't work. Right? And then Jayananda, the brakes of the car, how do we stop this cart? I said, Prabhu, whatever, I'm in ecstasy. You cannot come with me, I'm in ecstasy.
Amazing.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
think
Amazing.
that's what Krishna consciousness is about. And also, when he passed away, the one lady that gave him permits every year, to do the Rath Yatra. Of course, other devotee went to get the permit. Jayananda had passed away. And the lady, these permit people, I've done about 20 real estate transactions in my life. I don't have much to show for them because I've had 2 divorces, right? So, but I know these permit people, they are tough like nails, especially in places like LA or New York, So when the devotee was there for the permit, the lady said, where is Jim? Where's Jayananda? And the devotee said, no, he passed away. And the lady got all choked up and started crying, and she had to go inside, and somebody else had to take care of that permit for her, So this is how Jayananda affected devotee. One devotee left one time, and he became a butcher. And the devotees were criticized. This guy's a rascal. He's killing the cow, blah, blah, blah. Jayananda would go and bring him prasadam at the butcher shop. Bring him prasadam. And one time, he said, you know what? You have to come back to the temple. Please come back to the temple. And he said it in such a way. The guy convinced the guy. The guy decided, okay, I'm going to go back. And he did come back. But at that moment, Jayananda hugged him. And he had an apron full of blood. Jayananda hugged him like he would just have totally natural, Another instance, Jayananda used to go all day long, right? He the first one to wake up, last one to go to sleep. So it would be like 11 o'clock or something, and the devotees would just crash, and Jayananda would go and finish his rounds, And one time, Jayananda disappeared in the middle of the night. Nobody knew where he was. And so one devotee made it a point. Maybe he has a lady relationship or something. He's meeting in secret with somebody. So he stood up and started spying on Jayananda, what he did. And Jayananda went in the kitchen and he got all this stainless steel, and he had this batter, and he had these cauliflowers, and he walked down the street and he went into a bar. And Jayananda became the life of the bar. He was cooking pakoras and selling pakoras to all the bar's people. And he'd get out of there with a couple $100 in his pocket, So he's incredible personality. Now, when he got the cancer, I had the good fortune that I was preached to by Padmalochan Das of Mexico and Janas Priya Das of Mexico. He lives in Hawaii now. And they were put in charge to take Jayananda to have alternative treatment in Mexico, which was not legal in USA. So they went into this clinic. And the clinic was spotless because it was sponsored mainly by American wealthy people. So they go into this room, and it was just spotless room, and this incredible bed, hospital bed. It was very, very nice. And the devotee told me that Jayananda said, no, this bed is too nice for me. And he made an altar for Prabhupada on the bed, and he laid on the floor. And the devotee told me that he did it in such a sincere way, there was nothing they could do about it. And when the nurse came in, he was laying on his sleeping bag on the floor or something. The bed was too good for him. He made altar for Prabhupada from the bed. So Prabhupada said, you should follow the example of Jayananda. Not only that, he said at the end of a letter, this is a signed letter, May 11th of 1977, everybody should follow the example of Jayananda. In addition to this, or before this, in May 5 of 1977, Prabhupada wrote another letter to Jayananda. And at the end of the letter, Prabhupada says, with no doubt, you went directly to Krishna Loka. So then on the May 11th letter, Prabhupada said, a day should be set aside to celebrate the going back to Krishna Loka of Jayananda. And his picture should be put on the Rath Yatra cart of Lord Jagannath at every Rath Yatra. These are extremely significant orders that Prabhupada gave. Why? Because Jayananda is in the Vaishnava calendar. It's a half-day fast, right? When he left his body. And the Vaishnava calendar is reserved for only Mahajans like Narada Muni, the six Goswamis, the Acharyas, and incarnations of Krishna. It's only for Siddhas. It's only for Mahajans. So this is a confirmation that Prabhupada considered Jayananda as a Siddha, a Mahajan, great personality. And so that's why he said wonderful things about his disciples, but he never said you should follow the example of anybody. He never said to put anybody in the Vaishnava calendar except Jayananda Prabhu. So following Jayananda is extremely, extremely important. It will destroy your false ego. It will help destroy the false ego of anyone if we follow the example of Jayananda, which is all. It all depends on how much we can destroy our false ego, isn't it? So, yep.
Can we talk a bit about your research, if possible?
Yeah.
We've been talking for about an hour and a half,
Okay.
but I still want to talk about your research because it's really, really important. And I know you've got some photos to show us, which is
Yeah.
great.
Well, what
Um,
happened? What
yeah, I mean,
happened is this.
share with us a bit about your research and what it's about and what you've been doing.
Yeah. What happened is in 1980, I went out on Christmas marathon, and I was given this Santa Claus suit. It was so uncomfortable. It was so hot. It was just so artificial. It was just so much emphasis on money. I was disgusted by this whole thing. And I took that thing off and I put it in the car. I said, no, it's Christmas. We have to find out about Jesus and we have to honor Jesus, not this money collecting with this fake Santa Claus and all this. So I went to the library. I said, I'm going to pick up some books on Jesus. And I did. I found this book called Jesus Died in Kashmir. I said, my God, what? And F.A. Kaiser, German author. I understand he was murdered for writing the book. Some people claim like that. So I said, oh, Jesus went to heaven, right? And I knew that in Vedic thought, there were 7 heavens on earth, one being Kashmir, another one being Hawaii, I think. And so he went to Kashmir and died there. So I collected about 15 books on the subject. Most of them talk about Jesus in the lost years of Jesus, right? They don't talk about Jesus in Kashmir so much. But there are, the most significant one about Jesus in Kashmir is called Jesus in Heaven and Earth, put out a big book put out by the Ahmadiyya movement, that they preach that their founder, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, is the second coming of Jesus. In any case, they say that Jesus went to Kashmir and he is buried there, and that Moses is buried there. And so this just, I said to myself, you know what? I don't know if it's the last thing I do. I'm going to go to Kashmir and investigate. I'm going to go there. I'm going to go to the burial sites. I'm going to talk to the authors of books. I'm going to talk to the chief archaeologist of Kashmir and all this. This was in 1980. And I also prayed that there may be some supernatural event that would help me ascertain whether Jesus is buried there or not, this tomb in the Kanyar district of Srinagar,
Wow.
Kashmir, old Kashmir.
Wow.
So I couldn't get it together enough until this was 1980, until 1986. 1986, I landed in Bombay. I went to the First World Congress for the Synthesis of Science and Religion. Then I went all over South India to where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled. Then I went to the Mayapur Festival. Then I went to the Kumbh Mela. That's when I got my spiritual name. And then the next step was to go to the Himalayas to find out, So from Delhi, I had contacted his name is Mr. Husnain, Fida M. Husnain, I think it's his name. No, Basharat Shalim. Basharat Shalim, who claimed to be a descendant of Jesus and a big authority on Jesus in Kashmir. And he's the caretaker of the tomb. So I showed up at his place on a Monday at 11. And short man, deep voice, Muslim. And he spooked me out because after a while, he was talking to the air. He said, leave me alone. He was talking to the air. I said, oh my God, another nut, another crazy person. I started praying. I started praying to Lord Nrsimhadev, I hope I get out of this place alive. The guy's talking to the air. So he said, please, what's happening is this. He said, there's angels here. They're pinching me and they're bothering me and they're asking who you are. They want to know about you. So please don't mind. Everything will be okay. So after 2 hours of being with this man, my whole perspective changed totally. The man knew a lot of stuff. He was like an authority on the subject matter of Jesus in Kashmir and Moses in Kashmir and so forth. So after a while, I told him, my predicament is that I don't have any money, but I don't care about that. My health is not good. I've been attacked by 5 different types of dysentery. I was just skin and bones. So I don't care about that. What I care about is that my visa is going to expire in 2 weeks and I won't be able to finish my research. I found out that it's 4 months jail time if I overstay my visa. I had a 6-month visa. It was expiring. I already gotten an extension. So he said, he will help you. He will help you. Isa will help you. Isa will help you. Oh, okay. So he said, you have to understand, I know everything about Isa and this tomb. I'm the caretaker of this tomb. And he's like, his eyes are closed. And then he says, right now, there is a lady from Germany at the tomb, and she's just getting off this bicycle, and she's rolling down her jeans because she didn't want her jeans to be stained by the grease of the chain of the bicycle. You understand? I know everything that's going on about these things. Yes, Mr. Schilling. Yes, Mr. Schilling. So Isa will help you with your visa, will help you with everything. But you have to do, what do you have to do? And I said, I have to do what you say I should do. Yes. So I told him, Mr. Shalim, if you ask me to sit in the chair for 3 days and 3 nights, no food and no water. I'll sit on the chair 3 days, 3 nights, no food, no water. I told him like that. Very good, very good. He closed his eyes again. He said, okay, you're supposed to go to the burial site, not tomorrow, not Wednesday. You go on Thursday at 1 o'clock. I'm being told by Isa that this is what you have to do. Rain or shine, whatever, you have to be there on Thursday at 1 o'clock. Okay, so this you have to commit. You can go to see the burial, you have to take bath in this one river, and then you also have to, you can go visit ISKCON, the resting place of Jesus, which is a cave. He used to meditate there, and they keep the staff of Moses there. I said, wow, okay. So I went to these places, and then Thursday comes up, and I used to look in the sky, about my supernatural experience, and I wanted the clouds to turn into writing or something. Yes, son, I'm pleased with you. Jesus is buried here. I was like totally psyched about. I wanted something like that. Nothing happened. On Thursday, I go there. My assistant is very conscientious. He said, let's pull these weeds from the garden. Let's do some service. So we did that. We cleaned the reception area and so forth. Then I chanted 32 rounds. Then we made offering of cucumbers and tomatoes to Jesus. There is a stone of 2 feet carved with holes in them there. And the tomb is facing like the Jewish tradition, which is east-west, right? And so I take pictures and everything. So then I sat down to wait for my supernatural experience. I wanted Jesus, Krishna, or Prabhupada to tell me, yes, son, I'm pleased with you. Something heavy like that, something real thing. So I'm sitting there and nothing happens, right? But I hear outside the burial site, I hear people speaking in Spanish. Everybody speaks Kashmiri, Urdu, this Hindi. A few people speak English, but nobody speaks Spanish. And I'm hearing Spanish outside. So I said, it would be amazing if these people are from Chile. And I had a Chilean passport, right? Sure enough, I hear the accent, and they're Chilean people. And they
Wow.
come to the tomb, all right? And it's a lady, another lady, 2 kids, and a gentleman, right? One of the ladies who happened to be the maid of the family, she sat right next to me, and I turn around and I tell her in Spanish, "You're from Chile, aren't you?" She was like shocked, and she was very focused though. She said, "Is he buried here?" And I said, "I think he's buried here. Yes." Prabhu, of all of the people I could have run into, in the eternity that is time, all of us have been born on the other side of the Andes. Here we're in the middle of the Himalayas. They're there for 15 minutes. That's all. It was none other than the general counselor of the Chilean embassy. I told him about my visa. He said, I cannot guarantee you, but we can write a letter to the Indian government. And he wrote a letter stating that I'm nephew of this political leader of the history of Chile. And I got 3 months more visa.
Wow. That is amazing.
you know
Talk
that
about
is what.
Krishna's arrangement.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
totally. Totally. That's the first time that I just really saw the hand of Krishna so clear in my life. And so I was just boom. When I had to wait 2 months for the visa, but I was able to come back, and I was able to go to the burial site 3 more times, to the burial site of Jesus, 1 time to the burial site of Moses. Voila! Here is the picture, Prabhu, of me at the burial site of Jesus.
Amazing.
He's buried in there. Here I am with the stone of Moses. My hand is on the stone of Moses. It turned out to be, this is not the stone where the water came from. This is another stone that levitated, and I saw the stone levitate because it took the cloth of Moses across the tribe, and then they saw him naked running for the cloth, and then they said, oh, he has pure skin, he has no disease, because they were thinking that he covered himself up because he was chased, they were speculating that he must have a lethal disease, and they were planning to kill him because Moses had, made his people suffer a lot, 40 years in the desert, right? This is, Moses is buried under those two trees, and there is 50 families that are Jewish at the top of the mountain taking care of that burial site. Here is me at the replica of the throne of Solomon that the Mormons are looking for this in America, but it's actually in Srinagar, Kashmir. There are inscriptions on Persian on that throne attesting to the presence of Jesus in India. Here I am near Tibet looking for Pali manuscripts that are the original teachings of Jesus, but they were denied to me because they teach those Pali manuscripts is a different teaching than general Christianity is practicing around the world. And the Dalai Lama gave a strict order not to show this to anybody because he's trying to get support, financial support from the Christians to help free Tibet. So I was denied the manuscripts, but the archaeologist of Kashmir, the author of Christ in Kashmir, with whom I run into at the burial site of Moses, he had not been there in 7 years. I was the number 13 from the West ever to have been there in the guest book. And the man had not been there in 7 years. He said, this is a very, very amazing thing. I have heart condition. I'm 76. This is the last time I've come here to pay my respects. And sure enough, I run into you, because he said, you're investigating about moose. They call it moose. Yes, I'm investigating based on this book. He said, I wrote that book. I thought, okay, here's another nut that's trying to perhaps get a hold of my passport, and then I have to give him $500 to get my passport back. Right? But I remember that there was a picture of the author in the book. I turned to it, and it's the same man.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
So this is in South India. So Prabhupada states in the 7th canto that archaeologists have concluded that after the event of the tomb, Jesus went to Kashmir. Right? And Bhavisha Mahapurana relates that Jesus would be born of a virgin, that he would be made suffer by his own people, that they would put a crown of thorns on his head, and then he would travel to Kashmir. Right? This is a futuristic predictions. So there's a lot of basis from Prabhupada.
I mean, I'm aware of the story or the stories around Jesus going to Kashmir, going to India, but I've never heard the story about Moses going to India.
You can Google it up. It's there.
So there's also a view that Moses' tomb is in
Kashmir. I'm convinced he's buried there, both of them. And the other thing is that Abraham is from Kashmir. So this whole line of the Jewish people from Abraham, I am convinced, because Kashmir is Shiva country. They're all part of the Rudra Sampradaya or the Shiva Sampradaya. I think so. So I thought, let me find out, because this could be good preaching, preaching in the West. That it's also stated, Prabhupada even said that Jesus spent 6 years in Jagannath Puri.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. Yeah.
He was there. So the magicians that came, following a star, there were highly evolved astrologers that ascertained that Jesus would be born in this particular place, and they came and offered him silver and gold and myrrh, and these are Indian seers.
The views around the approach that Moses went to India, how commonplace is that amongst Jewish communities?
Well, what I found out is that Moses, he took the Beni Israel, the children of Israel, who were slaves in Egypt, to the promised land that flows with milk and honey. And it took him 40 years to do so. And manna fell from the sky when they were, about to starve and so forth. And then he hit a stone. I hit the stone too, thinking the water may come out of it, but no water came out of it. I said, hey, there's no loss. Why water comes out of it? So Moses took the children of Israel to the promised land that flows with milk and honey. The moment you go into Kashmir, you see milk and honey everywhere. Very fertile place, an amazing place. The peaches are this big. The celeries are huge, etc. Uh, so all those people, they have a Jewish faith like you would not believe, but they're all Muslims now,
Mm.
right? So now Jesus had to do three things. One, suffer on the cross for the sins of people, right? Two, to turn the other cheek. Before it was an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Now tolerance and patience was advocated, promoted, advised, right? Turn the other cheek, be humble, right? And three, he was supposed to teach the law of the book to those sheep that don't belong to this herd. And those are the Beni Israel that are now Muslims that live in Kashmir. And that's why Jesus went there. And he lived to the ripe old age of 125 years. Yeah.
Jesus or Moses lived to 125 years?
Jesus.
Jesus. And that's exactly the same amount of time that Lord Krishna was on earth in his transcendental form.
Yeah. There's a
I
lot of
just,
parallels, in the Bible. Kalki Avatar is described.
yeah,
And and the Noah's Ark it was protected by Matsya.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I personally have no problem or no issue with the view that Jesus went to India. It's very plausible. It's very rational. I think it's more real than Jesus going to Glastonbury in England. I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
stories
It's more
around Jesus.
significant. It's more significant.
Yeah, I mean, there's stories around Jesus going to Glastonbury as a child, and then there's stories around Jesus returning to Glastonbury after the supposed resurrection. I mean, I think that's very unlikely personally. And whether the Holy Grail is buried in Glastonbury, I really don't know. It's unlikely.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that happened at the time of Jesus, that there were about 200 people claiming to be Jesus. There was one of
Yeah.
them was called Apollonius, and he had a lot of people convinced that he was the real Jesus, and the real Jesus was not Jesus. So that's exactly what's happening with Prabhupada. So eventually, what will happen is that, like with Jesus, after 2,000 years, nobody knows about these guys that were trying to pass as Jesus. And the ones that know, they know that they were fraud, especially Apollonius was big fraud, right? So that will happen with Prabhupada in time. Yeah.
Mm, mm,
So, the sooner we can repent of sitting on Prabhupada's Vyasasan and stealing his disciples, the better. Great opportunity before everybody leaves their body.
mm,
If I may, Prabhu, at this point, I'd like to share a few things. You said, how to fix, right? But we already have said that we have to be totally fixed on Guru Tattva Siddhanta, that Prabhupada is the only absolute Diksha and Shiksha Guru for the next 10,000 years. And then we have to exercise unity and cooperation toward trust and love, which requires a little education, communication skills, etc. Then follow the example of Jayananda, right? Original books, and that will do it. That's how you fix this whole thing. And yeah, um, I did take some notes, but I would be repeating myself, and we don't want to make it too long.
mm,
One thing I wanted to say, I am working towards self-sufficiency. I live on 2 acres. I have 3 little properties around here in the north of Florida. Everything is very conducive to survive any type of war, world war, and so forth that Prabhupada predicted. Prabhupada said it cannot be avoided. Nuclear exchange cannot be avoided. He said places like Los Angeles are going to be rubble and twisted metal. That's it. So Prabhupada recommend that we come to a rural community and become self-sufficient. So I'm doing this effort. I've learned a lot. I don't recommend devotees start planting if they don't have a lot of resources, because it takes years for you to become self-sufficient planting. You know, save grains, save water, try to be away from a big city, a nuclear plant or a military base and so forth. and then you'll be okay. Another thing that I'm doing is a movie I wrote.
Wow. Voodoo Love. Wow.
Okay, this is based on the fact that I was seduced by this voodoo lady, right? The one that donated the $15,000. And here is an award for my writing.
Wow.
Another award. And these people here, they have made 3 offers to have the movie made, but I haven't signed anything. I'm looking for a better offer. But so for devotees that they that want to do self sufficiency, or devotees that may want to be part of like massive preaching, through this movie, because it's called voodoo love, but it's actually Krishna love at the end of the day, right? We have the scenes of violence and so forth, and the funny scenes and so forth, but at the end, she's plotting to kill him, but because he's a devotee, she realizes, oh my God, this is the only man that has ever cared for me in my whole life. Falls in love with him, and in real life we didn't marry, but in the movie we do marry. She becomes a devotee. In real life, she became very dedicated to Tulasi. She became a devotee of Tulasi. So it's very. I have the scenes of Prabhupada doing kirtan with George Harrison. I have a scene of in Purgatory, manned by Vaishnavas, of course. Then I have a Bhagavad Gita verse. I have scenes in Pataloka, scenes in Vaikuntha. So it's a preaching. It's preaching. It's to open up book distribution. This movie, but these are genuine voodoo altars.
Wow. So there's a bit of kind of black magic in the movie as well, in the film.
Yeah, they put like here's a genuine altar. I did research after, I ran away from this lady. I went and did research. I found the gurus of these traditions. And they put a spirit in here, and they programmed the spirit to do something. And they lift the lid, and the spirit goes do a nefarious thing. And in this particular branch of these witches, they try to fully control you, right? And they try to make the most heterosexual man out there into a woman. Through hanky panky, they weaken you through drugs, and then they send this ghost. And I was visited by a ghost in the Brahmachari ashram in LA, and he tried to rape me. And he almost did, and he could have killed me. But I had enough spiritual credit. I was going to protest, but I couldn't move. Then I knew that if I said the name of Krishna, I'd be off the hook, but I couldn't speak. So then I remembered the philosophy that if I just thought the name of Krishna, that would be enough. Bingo. I thought the name of Krishna, that guy was gone forever. I never seen him again. So it's amazing. This is George Harrison. I have him in the movie. And somebody pledged $200,000 already to as seed money for this. So if any devotee is interested in self-sufficiency and in preaching to the masses, they can contact me. Other than that,
Wow.
um,
Wow. It's I feel quite overwhelmed by our whirlwind conversation today. I feel like we've covered so many issues, but really we haven't really gone into to depth. That we could talk about the Prabhupada angle on its own. We could talk about Jesus and Moses on its own. We could talk about, cooperation and unity on its own. And I'm very impressed about how talented you are, and also how dedicated you are to Prabhupada. I can certainly feel that through the digital airwaves. You're so dedicated to Prabhupada, and I find you very authentic. You're kind of very genuine and very real.
I'm a pretty
Yours,
simple guy, actually, although I have a
yeah,
background. And, you know,
and that's important, I think. Often, I've met those devotees that you've alluded to in this conversation that tried to pretend to be big and great and wonderful, and actually we're all sinners, we've all
Yeah,
fallen short of the glory of God. We're all just as bad as
we
each
all
other.
got something. It's called
And
unearthly.
we're all attached in different ways because we know we're attached because we're still stuck in this material world, so just be honest, say you're attached to something, I do too much of this, I do too much of that, and support each other and help each other out,
Yeah,
so and I like your honesty about, you've been married twice, and beautiful women. And I mean, I think of some of the women I've dated in the past. Yeah, I mean, I ran a mile as well. You know?
yeah. The genes of my uncle who helped liberate a country in that passion. In my case, it manifested in. I mean, this was the second time I was seduced by a voodoo lady. The first time I was 19. This time I was 29, and then I married three times after that. So, yeah, that passion manifested in this relationship with women. I used to tell my mom, "Mom, you pray that I be a man of God, but you didn't pray about women. That's for sure."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she said, "Well, you were so independent, and I couldn't do anything about that." But I took a few notes. We should be thinking and feeling I am useless, a burden to the movement, instead of I'm a great asset to the movement.
Mm, mm,
Because this is how Jayananda felt. That's why Jayananda would not go in front of Prabhupada. I meditated on this. He didn't, because he felt like he didn't do enough until Prabhupada called him. Then he would humbly come with his head down before Prabhupada. Now, let me tell you one thing about Jayananda. I know we're running out of time, but I was kind of angry at the God brothers because they would not be receptive to unity and cooperation. They said, no, you should just join one of the groups. And, because so and so is never going to be under the same roof with so and so. And like that, you're dreaming. And I said, but this is Prabhupada's desire. So I was angry at them, because Spanish, French, genes. So, I was, these nonsense devotees, how could they think like this? Blah, blah, blah. I'm protesting within my mind, right? I'm angry at them. One day, Prabhu, I am in my deep sleep. I'm waking up, and I realized that in my very, very deep sleep, I was praying for the same God brothers that I was angry about. And I'm saying, what is this? What is this? And immediately Jayananda came in my mind. Jayananda came in my mind. I said, this is Jayananda at work. Jayananda has to do something with them, I'm convinced. Because on my own, I would have never done it. So Jayananda taught me to pray for the God brothers. Um, so Jayananda, he is part of the most sophisticated spiritual technology that we know nothing about. But I got a glimpse of it. So devotees should study about Jayananda. If they have difficulty in their spiritual life, already some devotee was going to commit suicide, and he learned about Jayananda, and he's following all the principles and he's preaching. So yeah, Jayananda is very important to feel humble, right? Also, Prabhupada said, it's best not to accept any disciples. Sure enough, in that verse where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, become guru and liberate everyone on the land, in the purpose says, Prabhupada says, it's best not to accept any disciples. Mahaprabhu didn't say Diksha Guru, he said Guru. No Diksha is there in that verse. So become preacher, become humble preacher, humble representative of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. If we are not regularly having humanistic and empathetic feelings toward others, those that are suffering, we're not in the Vaishnava culture. We should always be feeling humanistic, empathetic feeling towards others, towards so many suffering people. I've had the good fortune of taking care of sick people since 1988. It's one of the best things you can do. But I was just kind of thrown into it, you know. But, it's been really rewarding. Really rewarding. I have Anubhavananda living here. Somebody called me yesterday, Mahatma, you're the only one that went and picked up Anubhavananda when he was telling Facebook that he was going to throw himself in the river, you know. And yeah, that's what made me go and get him. And then with him, we went across country and we picked up a Gadai Prabhu who had a glioblastoma, wild type brain tumor. And we got him out of hospice and we took him to New Mexico. And he lived a whole other year. So, we have to take care of each other in this way, you know. Other examples, sometimes if you just give somebody $50, that's it. They're going to be able to take the next step that they need to take to be better, right? And so definitely, if we're not having empathetic feelings, identifying with the suffering of others, we're not in the Vaishnava culture. That's what Vaishnava means, that we are here to help all conditioned souls, huh? Make the life of these conditioned souls more dear to us than our own life. This is the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prabhupada, and that's what we have to do. And Jayananda Prabhu. Then we'll be off the hook. You asked me how to solve the problem. There it is. It's not
Thank
my
you.
idea. It's Prabhupada's idea. It's Krishna's idea. It's Sampradaya
Back to
Acharya.
basics. It's back to basics. I like it how you remind us of, the basic principles, going back to basics, grassroots.
Exactly.
Um, Mahatma Prabhu, we have been recording for almost 2 hours.
Oh, really? Wow.
You and I have been talking longer than that because we were recording before I hit the record button, and I knew we would have a wonderful dialogue today because you've got so much energy and enthusiasm for Bhakti Yoga. Um, so yeah, I am going to
Thank you
say
very much,
goodbye.
Prabhu. Thank you very much. You're doing a wonderful service to have, uh, rotten fallen, people like me to share a little bit of our little realizations, in relationship to Prabhupada and Lord Krishna and this incredible movement of Lord Chaitanya. Thank you so much.
No worries at all. Well, thank you for engaging with me. Um, thank you for engaging with me and supporting me and what I do. You're I know you're an ally, which is great. And yeah, and
I
you've
have
also
others in mind, and I already told you you would be really really successful. I think if you get a hold of a few devotees, that maybe be two or three at a time that you can talk to about supernatural experiences. Like
yeah.
Anubabananda would qualify. He was just telling me yesterday, this morning, how he had a white light come into his room, while I was doing Uber in the last few days in Gainesville. And, he's one of them. But I met other devotees that have had supernatural experiences, devotees that even Prabhupada showed up next to them, stuff like that, that there's no reason to not believe them. That would be a good one.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say goodbye to everyone at home. Stay on the line, stay in the Zoom room, and we'll have a brief debrief after. But I'm incredibly grateful to Mahatma Prabhu for being our first guest of 2025. I can't believe it's 2025. The first guest of 2025 on the Hare Krishna Project podcast, episode 155. There's a correlation of the numbers there, which is great. I'm very grateful to him for giving up his time, for being open, honest, and authentic. One of my favorite types of guests, and a man of many talents, and many interests. He's written a
Here's what
film.
Jayananda would do. He would plug his ears.
Yeah, he's written a film.
Let's get
He's
back to the original culture.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna say good. So, I've already said that. A bit rusty after the Christmas break. Um, just to remind everyone, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you haven't already, please do hit the subscribe button. And if you're watching this on Facebook, and if you haven't already, please do like or follow the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page. Those are the two ways you can watch this podcast, and you'll be kept updated about future podcasts and video productions from the Hare Krishna Project. And we do have already a list of guests queuing up. I guess they're queuing up to be on this podcast over the next couple of weeks and months. So until next week, I will see you all soon. Thank you. Hare Krishna.